Year 12 and welcome to your first video lesson on sociology. So we are moving on to a new topic. The reason I've got the PowerPoint behind me is to guide you for where you should be looking at for each task. I know you can't see it very well, but hopefully it will help with organising your notes. So the topic we are doing is social policy and inequality. We've looked at social policy before when we did the family, and all social policy means is any government rules or changes that are put in place. So essentially the fact we've got national curriculum is a social policy, the development of new school types like free schools is a social policy, rules that you guys have to follow at school is a social policy. If I could get you to pause the video now and quickly write your own definition before we get started on what a social policy is. The reason I'm asking you to do that is because often people get confused on what it is, and it tends to be a question where if it comes up, people write about irrelevant material. As per usual, we'll be going through 4 points on each different lesson. So, your title for today's lesson, I know it's reversed for you, but it's different school types. So, we are going to look at 4 different school types that have exist or do exist within the United Kingdom. This will be paragraph 1 if you want to make a note in your book, and we are looking at the tripartite system. When you've heard the word tripartite system before, you've probably heard about racism or segregation in that sense, because the tripartite system, in a way, is separating students. Now, the government at the time, the Conservatives, realised there were a lot of poor students who weren't doing particularly well within education. They decided it wasn't fair that these poor students couldn't afford to go to a private school to get extra additional support or to be stretched. So they came up with a tripartite system. A grammar school you would go to if you passed the 11+, and it would be focused on academics type learning. Often children would learn things like Latin, maths, science. It might be worth asking your parents because they would have likely gone to a grammar school. If you did not pass your 11+, you would go to a state school, otherwise known as a secondary modern. Their students were still learning English, maths and science to a lesser degree, but a lot of their studies would have been on vocational type courses. So it might be home economics, woodwork, things like that. So it meant, in theory, and this is why it was introduced, that the more gifted students would go into the grammar schools and get a more stretched curriculum, and the less gifted students would go to the secondary modern or state schools and get vocational training to allow them to get a career, which meant their schooling wasn't wasted. What I would like you to do is, underneath this slide, there's a YouTube link. If you can pause this video and watch that YouTube link and answer these 3 questions. So explain the difference between a grammar school and a state school, identify why grammar schools were introduced, and explain the problems with grammar school. You're focusing on how it caused problems for working class students. Pause this, quickly watch that video and answer these 3 questions. Okay, some of you will be wanting to look more at getting an A, an A star. I think a lot of you are capable of that, and I've spoken to you about that. What you want to be doing is focusing more on the actual specifics of the exam, as it gives you a chance to do what we call synoptic knowledge. Synoptic knowledge is where you bring some information from another part of the course to a part of the course that you are writing about in your exam. So, in this case, I'm going to get you to Google 11+ exam. I've actually put a link for one in your email. So you can click on that or you can find a different one. Just have a quick gander what it looks like, what type of questions were asked, how they were asked, when it was done in a year. I'd like you to summarise what this test looked like. Give a description, what type of questions come up, what would it have looked like. Then I would like you to explain why working class students would have a disadvantage. Now, in talking about that, some key things to think about. Remember that the middle class students have educational, economic and cultural capital. Think about how those three things were given an advantage to an 11-year-old kid who is about to sit an exam. This is a bit of a harder task because it is stretching your knowledge to an A and A star. If you want to do this but you're not sure, please drop me an email and I will explain it to you. Paragraph 2, we're skipping ahead a little bit to look at what replaced the tripartite system, and that's comprehensive schools. It was found that the tripartite system caused a lot of inequality, and when the Labour government got in, they felt a bit like they needed to change things, make things more equal. So they got rid of this idea that schools could select their students. What they did was develop the comprehensive school system. This is quite largely close to what you guys would study now. It follows a national curriculum with everyone studying the same material, so there's no inequality there. You'll remember that from when we studied gender. It identifies the benefits of a free school because everyone has the opportunity to sit the same exams and has an opportunity for an education. And it follows the guidelines of the government. So it's things like you have to have PSD, it's compulsory. And with the comprehensive system then, what I would like you to do is, underneath this slide, there is a link that describes the comprehensive system. Can I please get you to click on this link, pause this video, and use that article to answer those 3 questions? Okay, hopefully you've done that task now and you're waiting for an evaluation point. So, the problems with comprehensive schools you should have answered is that not everyone decided to go to a comprehensive school. So, for example, many areas such as Kent, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire tend to be more affluent areas, decided to keep the grammar school system. So comprehensive schools were not universal. So that's a problem. There's still inequality in some areas of the country. Equally, you can talk about how Karl Marx was quite critical of the comprehensive system. We've got the idea of the correspondence principle that's taught in the comprehensive system. And he argued that the comprehensive system meant that people would be socialised to be quiet, compliant, hard-working people. That's your first 2 paragraphs. Now what they might do is they might get you to discuss social policy in the last 25 years. If they do that, you are not allowed to talk about the tripartite system because that hasn't been around for more than 25 years. Although interestingly, the Conservatives are thinking about bringing it back and there has been some discussion on that. Alright, our 3rd paragraph and 4th paragraph focus on 2 schools brought in by the coalition government. So this is when Liberal Democrats and Conservatives were both in power together. What we are going to look at is the 2 schooling types that became quite popular at this time, were developed at this time. The reason I'm making it clear that these were brought in by the coalition government is they might ask you for 2 policies brought in by the coalition government. You bring these 2 policies in for a 10 mark on a coalition government. Please make that clear in your notes. The next 2 points are from the coalition government. Okay, you've got a list of questions about academies. Now, academies actually came in before the Conservative government brought in. Labour introduced academies, and it was essentially brought in for schools that were failing, because the very poor schools got turned into academies as a way to help them and support them get out. Conservatives like the idea of academies so much that it's become pretty much every school has become an academy. We at South Bromsgrove are an academy. The reason that this is a good thing is because the funding has been taken away from the local government. The funding comes straight to the academy, in this case South Bromsgrove, and it gives us more freedom on what we decide to do with that money. So some options that academies have that comprehensive schools didn't previously have is they might choose to hire an unqualified teacher. So they might get an unqualified teacher teaching sixth form to save school money, and they can spend that money elsewhere. They've got more freedom of what they want to do with things like pupil premium funding. They can make more decisions about teachers' pay scales. So rather than it being local government's choice if I get a pay rise, it's my head of faculty, the head teacher and the governors. Again, if you can click on the link below this, there's an article about academies. If I could please get you to read about the academies and answer these 4 questions. Your 4th question is your evaluation point. So if you want to label that as an evaluation point, do that. Okay, pause this video and have a go at doing that. Again, email me if you have any problems. Okay, the 4th paragraph that we are going to look at is free schools. This, again, as I just remind you, was brought in by the coalition government. Okay, now the name confuses people. Free schools, we assume the meaning of a free school is a free school, but of course the majority of schools in the United Kingdom are free to attend. So what we mean by a free school is a school that's been set up by a member of the local public. So if I give an example, you guys are probably aware of Aspire, that's a free school. Now, local members of the community realised that we did not have a school that catered for people with poor behaviour difficulties. So they got together, they contacted the government and said, we've got a need for this school. The school was developed, and that is what's called a free school. Still has to follow national curriculum, still gets Ofsted. The only difference is it's set up to meet local needs. If you were being really clever, you could imagine that the New Right really like this because they like that level of freedom to suit local needs. It's not just stuff to do with behaviour management. So in Coventry, there's a free school that doesn't think the local schools are doing enough outdoor activities. So one of the things that they did was brought out a school that had a lot more outdoor play. There are schools in Birmingham that don't think enough's being done to support the Muslim community, so they've brought in schools which cater more to Islamic faith. Whatever the reason is, local parents and families can get together. Can I get you please, if you click onto this slide, there is a link to a YouTube clip. If I can get you to pause this video again, watch that YouTube clip, and in a couple of sentences, write your own description of a free school. Okay. Now, in order to get an evaluation point for this does cause inequality. So it's something that's set up by the members of a local community. What we can say to that is that it tends to be people who have cultural capital who want to set up a free school. It tends to be affluent parents, tends to be middle class parents. It's nothing to do with economic capital because don't forget the state still funds the schools, but it's to do with cultural capital, knowing who's contact, knowing what your son or daughter needs of the schooling system. So if I talk about this then, the problem that causes is that free schools are therefore set up largely for middle class or upper class needs. And free schools in general have less below an average students who are on free school meals attend, and those that do attend school don't do as well. We stole this policy from Sweden. Sweden warned us at the time not to bring free schools in because they told us it would create inequality. Please note that down as your evaluation point. What you have done today then is you have covered the 4 different points that we would have covered in this lesson. So at the end of this lesson, check you know the following. Can you define the tripartite system, comprehensives, academies and free schools? You should be able to identify and describe all 4 of those. You also need to be able to evaluate each of those. Might be a nice idea if you want to do something extra, this isn't compulsory, to put those on the timeline in order because you can see how schools have changed across time. What you should notice is that schools have become more diverse recently. There's a broader range of options on where to go to school. I hope that was useful. If you have any difficulties, if you're stuck on anything, please email me. I will be checking your notes when you are back. It is really important you keep up to date with this. Again, please email me if you've got any problems, and I'm really missing you guys. I hope you're having an alright time at home, but I wish we were playing Kahoot here. Bye.